You're listening to a Raconteur Studios podcast.
Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome back to the After Hours Skin Clinic. I'm Dr. Emma Craythorne, and this is the podcast that gives you expert skincare advice outside the clinic. And today I'm joined by the wonderful Dr. Ellie Rashid. Welcome back, Ellie.
Gorgeous to be back as always.
So now that summer is officially here, and I think it is 32 degrees or something like that outside today, so that's quite nice. It's definitely time we address some of those very hotly debated topics and some under-discussed ones too.
Yeah, so in this episode we're talking tanning beds, tanning oils, our favourite body sunscreens, freckles, how to use retinoids in the summer, and general summer-specific skincare tips and tricks that we love.
Okay, first up, I think we should talk about tanning beds. These are sometimes things that people use in order to get themselves a base tan. And this idea of trying to get a tan to protect yourself from the summer sun is a bit crazy in my mind. So let's think about what are they made of, and how do they work?
So tanning beds essentially emit UVA and UVB in the same way that sunlight does the same thing. But the reason why I don't usually advocate for the use of tan beds for so many reasons, but it's this really unregulated dose of UVA and UVB. And so the cumulative tanning beds that you would then use means that you're increasing your potential risk of some of these sun-related skin cancers or UV-related skin cancers. And you can even increase your risk of skin cancers like melanoma as well. Then the other thing that I worry about is the machines aren't tested in a reliable way. Like, we use phototherapy in dermatology. So we use a narrow band of UVB, we can use UVA to try and reduce some of these inflammatory skin conditions. But it's so meticulously adjusted. Your exact dose of UV that you're getting is all written down, it's all recorded. The machines are all tested to make sure that they're meeting all the regulatory requirements and that they're functioning as they're meant to function and emitting the right amount of energy at the wavelength that it's meant to. Whereas with tanning beds, you just don't have that sort of quality control.
I think that's right, isn't it? Some people get very confused to say, well, my friend's having phototherapy, in other words, these tanning beds to treat one of their skin conditions. So why are you telling them it's safe to have it? And why am I not allowed to have it if I just want to get a tan for my holidays, or I want to get a tan because it's the middle of the winter?
Yeah, and when we think about a course of phototherapy, you might be having it 2 to 3 times a week for sort of 16 weeks or so. So you might have, 40 treatments in a course. And if you're using a tanning bed to sort of stimulate a tan before the summer, most people will be using this throughout the whole of winter, spring, autumn, and there's just a real cumulative risk that develops.
So I always kind of say, whenever we're using it in dermatology, we have worked out exactly which kind of wavelengths of that UVB is going to be most helpful. So not all wavelengths of UVB are anti-inflammatory, which is why this gets used, but there's only certain wavelengths that really are. And so that's why it gets narrowed down to these narrower wavelengths to deliver the anti-inflammatory, but without all of that cancer risk that goes alongside it. Because UV is a class 1 carcinogen. We know that it will increase your risk of developing skin cancers.
Like smoking.
It's just the same as smoking, that's right. Obviously, smoking doesn't give you...
And asbestos.
And
all
asbestos.
class 1 carcinogens. But we just don't think of UV in the same way.
I know. I think it's because you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't, it seems so insidious. It's around us all the time. Like, how's that going to be the thing that's going to give you your skin cancer?
Seen as natural.
Yeah. And actually, it is confusing because sunlight is generally very good for us. It is good for our well-being, it's good for our mood, it's good for being outside and exercise. But the ultraviolet part of it is just not. And that is the part that damages our skin, it ages our skin. And unfortunately, especially with burning, it increases our risk of skin cancers.
It is confusing. And I'm always telling my patients, go outside, enjoy it. It's so good for you. Like, it makes you feel great. And being outside in nature is wonderful. But just do it safely.
So there's always a few kind of facts I always think about. So if you have 5 lifetime sunburn episodes, then that doubles your risk of melanoma. And if you only have 1 as a child under the age of 10, that doubles your risk. Just 1 sunburn episode.
Ouch.
Isn't it?
To be fair, I went out recently and weather was glorious with the kids, and so many parents were slapping on sun protection on their children. Like, I do feel like people are very careful. But then if you think about childhood, as a teenager, you don't really have your parents there slapping on your sunscreen. They're the at most risk group, I feel, teenagers.
Well, you would say that, but I just went on a podcast last week where we got into a bit of a debate because they wouldn't put sunscreen on them or their children.
Parents wouldn't put it on their children?
Yeah.
Young children?
Yeah.
My gosh.
So the answer was just to keep them out of the sunshine and so that they wouldn't burn, but they didn't want to put the chemicals on the skin.
So keep them indoors all day. Poor kids.
I know. So that is the thing. We live in a society now where we're really lucky that we have really good SPFs, that we can go and enjoy being outside for longer periods than our skin would otherwise allow us to and not burn.
It's nuts. I could say to you, put this cream on every single day and reduce your risk of a certain type of cancer. And you'd be like, what, just a cream? I just need to put a cream on every single day. And that would reduce my risk of cancer. Brilliant. Give it to me. No problem. I'll do it. But then when it comes to skin cancer and sunscreen, just people don't have that same thought process.
Yeah, and yet this is the commonest cancer that we have in the United Kingdom. The commonest. Or I give you a cream and you put that cream on every single day for 3 years and your skin will be 23% younger than it would have been.
I mean, if
give me the
anyone
cream.
needed convincing. We don't need convincing.
And that's your SPF. I mean, there's 2 really, really good reasons to put your SPF on. Should we have a think about what our top 3 body sunscreens are? And actually, some of these I just put on my face anyway because they're good sunscreens regardless. I suppose my number 1 for the body would be, I love the Altruist SPF 50, big massive 1 litre, family friendly. I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. I love the Aven body sunscreen. I think that absorbs really nicely, easy to put on. I much prefer a cream compared to a spray. I've got a spray at the moment that I'm putting on the kids and we've got wooden flooring.
It's so slippy.
Honestly, there's like a whole sheen across their entire feet and then it does become quite slippery. So yeah, I'm a big fan of a cream that I can apply directly onto their skin and don't have to worry about slippy floor.
Yeah, especially with the aerosol ones. I'm always like, okay, hold your breath. You know, I don't want you to breathe this in. And it just like aerosols everywhere. Yeah, so I'm a fan of a cream as well. Plus also I then know exactly where it's gone.
And a third one, I guess, would be the La Roche-Posay Thalios range. I just love everything that they do. And they've got a nice, it comes as a spray, but it's like a cream spray rather than like a spray that goes everywhere. That's really nice to put on.
Yeah, I think they would be our top 3. I also like the Aveeno one for babies. It feels nice and smells nice and they quite like that. But I do love the La Roche-Posay one. My only thing is I don't like it when it turns things yellow.
It does. It turns all their t-shirts, white t-shirts, yellow, especially at the neck.
So that's why I kind of use the Altruist for the body and then I'll reserve the La Roche-Posay one because I think it's better for the face. What do you do for your children on holiday? What are your kind of like good sun tips? You do yours, I'll do mine.
Yeah, so my good sun tips are put them in UPF clothing. So this is clothing that has protection in the same way that SPF does. So you can get like UPF 50 clothes and they're wonderful. So it's long sleeves, like it has a high neck. You can get it sort of with long trousers or shorts. And then just the exposed bit of their skin, you can just really focus your sunscreen on those areas. And it even comes with like these little hats that you can wear that are waterproof. So my top tip is make your life easier. Just put them in something that's nice and easy that protects them.
Yeah, I agree, because if you want to spend the day on the beach or by a swimming pool, can you imagine how paranoid you get whenever you think, oh my gosh, have I put that bit of SPF on that tiny little bit of skin that's exposed? So I think it's just much easier. You have the UPF clothes that are long sleeved and long trousered, and very importantly, not a dark colour.
Yeah. Thing is, though, you have to be careful. So you don't get a dark colour because then they just get hot. And
you kick them, you literally have a kick child.
And then I've also been told not to buy like white or blue because it's hard to see them in the water.
That's right, in case
so you
they
need
dry.
Yeah. So then you sort of really are limited to like neons, neon orange, green, bright. No, actually even green and blue's an issue.
Orange would be the best.
Orange, best.
Okay, so long sleeve,
Red,
long trousers.
Orange.
Pale orange, but...
Yeah.
Okay, so I would have done that too. And I would have had the hat, you know, with the little long bit that comes down at the back, the Legionnaires style hat. And then just being diligent with making sure it was on the back of the hands and the face and the tops of the feet.
I'm smiling because Lucas had one of those little hats and we used to call it his Donald Trump hat. Just like It was like in the American flag colours, and he just looked like a little Donald Trump supporter.
And what do you do for your sun protection?
I'm really good. So I'll do it in the mornings, first thing, before I've sort of even gone down for breakfast. This is if I'm on holiday.
And when you say you've done it first thing, is that to your entire body, your exposed body?
No, I
What
do
is
it to my entire skin, yeah, because I'm often in a bikini.
But not-
so I'm
oh,
not
yeah.
wearing UPF clothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks great on kids, but not on me. And then I've got, then I just cover it head to toe. Then I know I've got my first layer with all the filters, nicely absorbed. Perfect, done. And then if I'm by the pool, I just reapply.
Yeah. I am not as good as you, I don't think. I never would miss an opportunity to do my face and my arms. Never, never, never. On my chest. But I sometimes don't do my legs. Yeah. I mean, if I'm going to be out by a pool or by the beach, then of course I will. But yes, if I'm just walking around, I actually don't. Unless I think I might burn, then I do.
Yeah. I've been caught out before where I hadn't put any on Lucas's feet.
Feet are always the catcher-outs.
Awful. It got really red. His poor little feeties got red. So I'm actually really conscious of like doing full legs and feet and the whole lot. Just do the whole lot and then you can relax.
Because even with little ones in the pram, that is the part that, the bottom of their legs and their feet are always sticking out. So even if you've got the sunshade over the top of them, those are the bits that are exposed.
Yeah.
So what about people who like to get a tan whenever they go on holiday?
Just because they like the look of it.
Yes.
So,
and they like to age their skin and increase the risk of skin cancer.
So a tan is essentially your body's way of telling you that you have been exposed to UV radiation that is damaging the DNA that sits within the nucleus of our cell.
And the mitochondrial DNA.
And so you're exposed to UV light, DNA damage is happening, and so the melanocyte releases melanin that sits over the nucleus like a little protective hat and protects it from further UV damage. So there isn't really such thing as a healthy tan because any tan implies that you have this DNA damage happening. And the more that you are exposed to UV radiation and the deeper that tan gets, the more it's really trying to protect you and trying to protect your skin cells from that DNA damage. So just don't do it.
But the worst kind of a tan is the tan where somebody actively burns their skin to turn brown.
Yeah, you see, that doesn't happen to my skin.
Yeah, so what we mean by this is that everybody has a certain minimal erythema dose. In other words, a dose of ultraviolet radiation that will turn them red. And it's usually at that point is whenever kind of more damage is being done because, yes, you've damaged the nucleus, the DNA, but you've also then induced a whole lot of kind of oxidative stress. And so getting to that point of being red and then allowing yourself to tan is actually really worse than never getting to that red point.
Yeah. And that's where SPF comes in, isn't it? So
yes.
An SPF 30, it increases the time that it takes for you to reach that minimal erythema dose or that redness by whatever the factor is. So if it's SPF 30, then it takes you 30 times longer to reach that level of redness.
What's interesting is that you don't necessarily need really a massively high number. It's just about ensuring that the number, say for example, an SPF of 30, an SPF of 50 is better than an SPF of 30, less photons of light get through. But it's not that much of a difference. So if you're somebody who finds that your SPF 30 is actually much more comfortable and enjoyable to wear, then we would say that was fine. But even probably if you're somebody who had an SPF 20 that was your favourite and you could definitely put that on the skin of your body and feel comfortable with it, good, bad?
Yeah, so I say it in a slightly different way. So you're absolutely right. SPF 30 blocks 97% of UVB radiation. SPF 50 blocks 98%. So that there is a very small difference between those two SPF numbers. But then I think with imperfect application of your sunscreen, then you're probably not really ever getting the true number that's on the bottle. So then just if you start from a higher point, then with imperfect use, you might be getting sort of an SPF 20 or 30. So that's what I normally say.
Yeah, so I think it's both of them because you might do absolutely perfect application of an SPF 30, but sketchy application of an SPF 50 because you just don't like it.
Don't like it, yeah.
So the key is both, isn't it? You find the SPF that you like, the bigger the better, but whatever you're going to put on absolutely properly is really key. And what is absolutely properly?
So for a full face, I do 2 finger lengths of sunscreen. And then when you put the sunscreen onto your fingers, you don't want to rub it in between your hands and then like rub it on in a really haphazard way. You want to just take it off your fingers and apply it in a, just have a little routine. Like you start from the same place.
I'm a patter, making the film. Yeah. I'm demonstrating. Patting.
I start at the top and work my way down.
And then the same thing is true for the rest of the body as well. I tend to just do the same thing as I've done for my face. I do just 2 fingers for the arm, 2 fingers for the other arm, 2 fingers for the chest. I just like 2 fingers. And so people will often say, well, if I'm putting on this amount of SPF every day, then I'm not getting my vitamin D.
Yeah, so my answer to this is actually you need quite a small amount of UV exposure to get your vitamin D. And you normally absorb a lot of it through like your hands, your face and exposed areas throughout the entire year. So I don't worry about it too much. Really, you just want to minimise your risk of burning. And if you need to take a supplement because you might be a skin type that doesn't produce as much vitamin D, then take a supplement. Most people that take a supplement will absorb it and will increase their vitamin D levels.
Exactly. And it's only the UVB wavelengths that are making that vitamin D. So usually in the UK, even whether you wear sunscreen or not, you're not getting much in the way of UVB anyway, because there's just not a lot of it around. So it's only the UVB will generate that vitamin D. And what I find so interesting is that it also has a capacity. So as soon as you've got to the point where you've made enough of the vitamin D, then you actually don't make any more. So it's not like you can go out and store it all up. The skin
It just filters out.
It.
Yeah, literally just wee it out.
But it's interesting as well, that story about vitamin D and sunburn. Did you read John McGrath's paper at the front of the BJD a few months ago?
Yes, yeah. And he talks about vitamin D and sunburn.
So I remember Professor McGrath talking about vitamin D and sunburn many, many years ago. And it was only just published at the front of the British Journal of Dermatology about 3 months ago. And essentially they took a high dose of vitamin D and used it in patients who had had sunburn. So they had had this sunburn exposure. They give them vitamin D and actually they resolved their sunburn. It was actually by the next day by taking these high doses of vitamin D. Now, we can't really advocate taking the high doses of vitamin D, but...
So Quet Liu has been doing studies in vitamin D and sunburn, but for over 10 years. I remember John McGrath talking about this over 10 years ago. So even though it's now all being published, actually he's been talking about it for a very long time.
But I think it's just related to the antioxidant capabilities of vitamin D as well. So that's probably why I say something like lycopene, for example, which is an extract from tomatoes. It's been shown in a study, if you have a tablespoon of tomato paste every day that has enough lycopene in it, it actually means that you're less likely to get sunburn and recover from sunburn. And again, that's just based on the antioxidants. So it must be all of those
pathways. I remember
pathways.
you saying that as one of your top secrets.
It is a good secret,
top beauty secrets, that was it.
Yeah. Not on your face. It's actually got more evidence. The study that was run was much better studied than half the things that we see.
I'm just going to go home and have a spoonful of tomato paste after this.
Yeah, do. In some of the SPFs, there are other things that are starting to be added. So things like tan maximisers and accelerators. Do you know a little bit about those?
Yeah, so there are 2 versions. You've got the tan accelerators, intensifiers, maximisers that actually don't have any SPF in them. So they are just sold and marketed as tan intensifiers. And they have an ingredient in it called tanosytol, and that upregulates an enzyme called tyrosinase, which contributes to melanin production. So it activates your melanin, giving you a tan. But the reason why these aren't, well, certainly a reason why I'm not a big fan of these tan accelerators are because they're marketed in a way to say that you can then protect your skin. So if you use a tan accelerator, you have a baseline tan, which means that you're less at risk of burning. So therefore, use it a few weeks before you go on holiday. Then when you go on holiday, you're sort of primed with this healthy tan that then means that you can enjoy UV light without the risk of burning. But I just think it's really dangerous because you then might think that you can just be out in the sunlight without taking any protection. Actually, you might still burn. And then also the cumulative risk of having that UVB and UVA radiation you're ultimately increasing your risk of skin cancer. So there are tan accelerators that have SPF within them or like incorporated into the sunscreen. Again, I think it just gives you this, well, it accelerates your tan. So then people may falsely think, okay, well, I've got a bit of a tan now, so I'm completely safe and I can stay out in the sun for a long period of time. And so you're just increasing your cumulative UV exposure.
And then one of the things that's really always been around for the last number of decades, I think, is the idea of fake tanning and putting a fake tan on so that you can look tanned, but you haven't exposed yourself to ultraviolet radiation, in other words, in order to get that tan. And these fake tans have come on leaps and bounds, really, over the last few decades, haven't they? Getting the colour just right, so it's that exact right mixture of the red and brown and yellow, compared to the very early days of it when it was often quite a greeny orange colour. Do you remember?
No.
Were you never a fake tan girl?
No, never. So fake tans are great and we encourage using them because they contain a sugar compound called DHA, dihydroxyacetone. And this interacts with an amino acid in the very top layer of our skin in the stratum corneum. And it causes this reaction. And then you get this like pigmentation, which this browny sort of toasty coloured pigmentation, biscuity coloured pigmentation. And essentially it will just sit on the surface of our skin and naturally just exfoliate off as our skin cells shed ordinarily. So it's a really safe way to get the desired look, but without any of the risk to your DNA or any risk from UV or any risk from any of these compounds that stimulate melanin production. Another ingredient is the erythrulose that can be mixed with the DHA to give you a certain type of colour on the skin.
It's so clever now, isn't it? And all I remember it smelling of was a kind of biscuity smell.
That's what everyone says. I quite like the smell.
I do not like the smell.
Well, someone that doesn't use it, when I smell it on other people, I think it smells... They're always really conscious of it, like, I smell a fake tan. I think it smells nice.
Yeah, I have 2 daughters who love fake tan, which I'm grateful for. So I am well aware of every new brand of fake tan. Although there are a few really nice ones around. So I have tried them again on myself. But I think, I don't know, maybe it's just my skin reacting with them creates some kind of smell that I really don't like.
Also, I think you're embracing your natural colour.
My natural peel.
Which is great. Yeah, natural gorgeousness.
I suppose one of the things about fake tan to think about and not to be lulled into a false sense of security is that it doesn't protect you against ultraviolet radiation. You're still going to get the same amount of UV hitting off your skin. So you do have to put on your SPF. It's not a real tan.
Can you imagine someone having fake tan and being like, I'm not at risk. Look at my Fitzpatrick skin type 4.
Can I imagine? I've seen it loads of times.
Oh my gosh, how deluded. It's like believing your own lie.
Yeah. Last year there was a huge trend on social media about freckles, and you would have these filters that would put freckles on your face, and you would also have pens that you could put pens on and draw your own freckles on with henna. And that was a real kind of embracing of freckling. Whereas I remember probably around about 15 years ago, people not liking their freckles and desperate to get rid of their freckles. But freckles are interesting, aren't they? Because we see them in children and we think that they're really kind of cute and cutesy. And after a summer exposure of ultraviolet radiation, those freckles go away. But what happens is whenever we continue to expose ourselves to ultraviolet radiation, then it's not really a freckle anymore. It's something called a solar lentigo or a sunspot. So I think that is the kind of difference between the two of these. I think what's quite interesting, but is that freckles are really a sign that you're somebody who is probably got an increased risk of developing skin cancer because you carry, 1 or perhaps 2 copies of a gene that increases your risk of developing melanoma. So I do think that freckles are incredibly gorgeous and cute, particularly in children whenever they're, very symmetrical and there's a smattering of them on the face. But the more of them that are coming, there is also that thought always in the back of my mind.
So what are your thoughts, Emma, on people tattooing freckles onto their face?
I mean, I think freckles look good. I think that they're really, really cute. But I think it's cute because the person has the freckles naturally. I think if somebody wants to do micropigmentation, I guess, on their face to give themselves the allure of freckles, well, then that's also probably quite nice for them. I'm not sure I would do it.
Yeah,
but then I do
tattooing's a bit extreme.
But I do micropigmentation for my eyebrows to make my eyebrows look like I have more eyebrows. So, is it that different?
I don't know. Eyebrows, I feel like it's normal to have eyebrows. I'm with you. I think it looks gorgeous, but I don't know. I think it's a bit extreme to tattoo it on. Emma, what do you normally say to patients who ask you about using retinoids, like their tretinoin, throughout the summer?
So it's very interesting, isn't it? Because for many years, people said, I can't use my tretinoin in the summer, or I'm going to wait until the winter until I start using it. But that is absolutely incorrect advice. In fact, if you need to start tretinoin for the first time, the summer is actually a really, really good time to start it. And the reason for that is that there's more humidity around. And at the very beginning of starting to use a tretinoin, often your skin barrier gets a little bit of disruption. You lose a little bit more water out of it, and that goes along with that redness that some people experience. However, if the humidity in the area where you are is high, well, actually, you're not then losing as much water to the environment, and it kind of stays within your skin. So the side effects are much better from that perspective. But also, it has an additional benefit of using a high strength of vitamin A at night time. And that is, it actually protects the skin from that oxidative stress the next day. So if somebody is then exposed to ultraviolet radiation, because you've used this powerful antioxidant, there is less oxidative damage due to the ultraviolet radiation. And then secondly, it also works by stabilizing those enzymes called MMPs that would normally break down your collagen. So as soon as your skin is exposed to ultraviolet radiation, then the MMPs are activated and they start to gobble up collagen. And one of the advantages of having something like a tretinoin, it's been shown to stop that or reduce that activity markedly. So yes, number one is obviously you have to put your SPFs on. That is a given, because what's the point of using a tretinoin for many reasons unless you're going to do that. But actually this then acts as this extra benefit, a bit like we talked about with the vitamin D and the lycopene. So you've got that aspect of the antioxidant, but then also this very important step of stopping the collagen being gobbled up by the enzymes. And the key is that we use tretinoin at night time. Our skin works in this lovely circadian rhythm where certain things are happening in the day and certain things are happening with cells at night time. And so in the day, it's really about trying to protect ourselves from ultraviolet radiation and oxidative stress. And at night time, it's all about repair and regeneration of the skin. And that's why it is really important, the things that we put on our skin morning and night, and often why they're different. And then, traditionally the older versions of these retinoids would often be broken down by ultraviolet radiation. They're now a little bit more sophisticated, so that doesn't happen. But that's originally why it was kind of put on at night time. And now, secondarily, we understand about this circadian rhythm and why it's better to put it on at night. Did you know, I only just found this out recently, that if you're exposed to ultraviolet radiation in the morning, because your DNA repair enzymes are much more active in the morning and like kind of noon, that you're much less likely to burn. And if you're exposed to the same amount of ultraviolet radiation in the evening, you're more likely to get DNA damage.
Ah, yes.
So yes, using tretinoin should be continued during the summer. Using tretinoin, if you're wanting to do it for the very first time, the summer is a great time to start. But you must use your SPF properly in the daytime, or there's no point using the tretinoin at all.
Might as well not bother the whole thing.
So to round this episode off, we're going to discuss our 3 top summer tips. Mine is a yacht in Ibiza with a margarita. What's yours? Oh, sorry. I was meant to tell you about my skin top tips. Well, I love swimming in the sea a lot. And so I really can't be bothered with putting SPF all over my body or wearing the bikini. So I will be wearing my kind of full UP. I'll be naked. Watch out, boys. My top thing to wear is actually, because if I have a bikini on and I'm then going to go swimming or be exposed outside a lot, I don't like the idea of having to pull on those tight UPF swimsuit things. And then I always worry that my neck's going to be exposed or whatever. So I have like quite a loose light swimsuit material cardigan. And it's white and it's quite flowy. I think I look quite sophisticated in it. And you put it on like a cardigan, and then it's got a big hat that comes over the top of it attached to it as well. And even a little space that my ponytail can fit out of. And honestly, since I've had this, which I got 3 years ago, even if I was to be on a boat for a day, I won't get burnt.
It's giving Amalfi vibes.
Yes, it is.
My top tip for summer skin, which I think is a little bit of a cheat, but you know the like Nuxe oils?
Yes.
So there's one that's like a rose goldy colour and it's got a little bit of like a glittery pigment to it. And in the evening when it's dark outside, I love to moisturise my skin and then just add a little bit of that body oil all over. And I just think it makes your skin look gorgeous and glowy.
I like that. It's reminded me of a thing that I wouldn't do, which is I wouldn't put on a fragranced essential oil body lotion at any time whenever I was on holiday.
Not even in the evenings.
Well, in the evening, yes, if you're going to wash it off properly.
Yeah, and then you've got your perfume.
But I see so many people now with their kind of Burlock's dermatitis and the patchy pigmentation coming up the arms from, I'm sure, from kind of things like body oils that have got fragrances within them. And the reason why we're talking about this is if you have a fragrance in your, like an essential oil, it can often react with ultraviolet radiation and cause a bit of a pigmentation. So I'm a bit of a geek about that.
I'm an evening body oil gal.
With scent.
With scent.
As long as you're washing it properly the next day.
Absolutely, yeah. Multiple showers on holiday.
I think another top tip would be to wash your SPF off at the end of the day because, you know, it does start to break down a bit and you don't really want to have that on your skin. And, you know, if you're putting on your nice Nuxe body oil like Dr. Ellie Rashid, you want to have everything all nice and shiny before or going to bed because it will break down overnight. I also think as well, it's probably worth bearing in mind that the routines whenever you're on holiday is different to the routines whenever you're at home. And often people will blame their SPF for giving them acne and spots. But sometimes it's related to the 2-week holiday that they've just been on and, you know, the sun that they've been exposed to and the extra humidity. But I hear that a lot. I've been on holiday, put my SPF on and now I've got spots.
Yeah, there are so many variables on holiday. You're drinking more, you're eating completely different food often that's, you know, prepared by the hotel, depending on where you go. Yeah, even being on a flight can sometimes break people out. So I think it's a combination of just everything, just all things that are outside of your normal routine.
Okay, that's a wrap on the summer skincare episode. Now go out and enjoy the sunshine, but please do it safely. Ellie, thank you as always for joining me.
And thank you for having me.
And thank you, my lovely listener, for joining us. If you've enjoyed this episode, then give us a follow on socials and wherever you listen to your podcasts. We also love hearing your questions, so keep sending those in. Okay, bye for now. Take care of yourself and your skin, and definitely wear your SPF. See you next time at the After Hours Skin Clinic. As always, this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional before making a change to your treatment.